Bonjour à tous et bienvenue sur cette deuxième vidéo. Cette fois-ci sur les nombres qui vont de 70 jusqu'à l'infini et au-delà. Et donc nous allons voir un petit peu comment ça fonctionne pour ces nombres en particulier. So I'm going to switch to English to give you some explanation about all of them. So as I told you on the last video, it was really important to get clearly 100%, as I was saying the last time, all the numbers corresponding to the column of 10 until 19. The reason why is because you are going to use them also for the column of 70 and also for the column of 90. So, meaning that, for example, for 70, we will say in French 70, so meaning that you are using 10 in this case, and then after 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. So same thing happening also for the column of 90, meaning that you will have also to use 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. So it's as simple as that. There is nothing complicated, as the legend used to say. As for the column also of 80, in this case is 100% regular, meaning that you just have to count using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. Voilà. So, now that I've talked a little bit about those ones, of course, there are some irregularities because otherwise there won't be any rules. So, for the little exceptions that we have, the first one that you have to take special care about is the way that we write 80 in French. As you can see here, 80 appears with an S at the end. So that's the only exception for this. As for also what I was saying in the last video, for the numbers ending with 1, if you remember, the last time I told you that we have every single time to use et1. So be careful in the case of 70, 80, 90, it doesn't happen the same way, meaning that for 71, yes, you have to say 71, but for the rest, for 81 and 91, so 81 and 91, in this case, there is no need to use the A. So, apart from that, apart those irregularities I was talking you about, there is absolutely nothing complicated about them. As I told you also at the end of the last video, I prefer to teach them to you this way because I think it's a lot more easier than going through math, thinking about the fact, for example, that 96 is 4 times 20 plus 16. I really don't see the point in making it so complicated because when I was in school, I learned them this simple way, meaning that when we have 96, we just have to use 80 and then to add the column of 10 for it. So, this being said, we're going to repeat, of course, all the numbers. So, starting from 70 until 99. Vous êtes prêts? Commençons. 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. So as you can see, that's not that complicated for those numbers. So if you need to review them once again, I invite you to go a little bit before and replay this sequence when I was saying them out loud, and to repeat them again and again as so that they will be memorized perfectly as usual. And so now we're going to switch to the next numbers that we have. So two precisions to start. As for the number 100 and 1000, we have a different way to say them from the English version, for example, meaning that we don't use one. So in the case of 100, we will be only saying 100. And in the case of 1000, we will be only saying 1000. Apart from that, regular as usually. So you will have, for example, for 200, 300, and so on, 200, 300, 400, 500, and so on. Same thing for 1000, 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000, etc. So it's not that complicated. Then we have the category of 1 million and 1 billion. So in 1 billion, yeah. So in this case, we use 1. So we have 1 million and 1 milliard. So apart from that, it's as for the 100 and 1000, meaning it's totally regular. So you have, for example, 2 millions, 3 millions, 4 millions, 5 millions, and so on. Same thing for milliards, 2 milliards, 6 milliards, etc. So for those numbers, as you can see, as I was pointing them here, let's take, for example, the example of 1000 that we write this way. If you see the way that I've typed it, actually, in the case of the French language, we always put a space between the 1 and the 3 zeros that we have just after. So that's what enables us to know that we are talking about 1000, for example. So, why am I talking about that in particular? Because if you check out, for example, the American version of the numbers, they have this tendency to use a comma called virgule in French. For the French people, it's absolutely different, meaning that if we are using a comma or a dot, in the case of the numbers, we would understand them in a totally different way. So let's say, for example, that I'm talking about 1075, for example. In the case of the French language, we would write it this way. In the case of the American language, they would write it this way, but be careful about this way, which is used in American, because the French people would understand it another way, meaning 725, meaning that the 1 for us is the unit, and what we have after a comma or after a dot means that we are talking about the cents. Okay, so be extra careful if you come to read some articles, for example, in French, talking about numbers, every single time that you have a comma or a dot, it means that we are talking after about the cents, and what you have just before are the units. So be extra careful about that. So apart from that, that was a global review about all those numbers. So as I told you, not that complicated actually to remember. So let's review a little bit all the informations I gave you on this particular video about those numbers starting at 70. So for those ones, for the column of 70 and the columns of 90, you have to use the column of 10 so that you can say them out loud. The other thing for 80, of course, as I told you, it's really simple, totally regular. You just have to count using the column of 1 until 9. What else did we have? We had also this particular thing about the number 1, if it's ending a number. So you have, for this case, 81, 71, 81, 91, meaning that for 81 and 91, you don't have to use a. Okay? And so the other thing is that for the rest, it's absolutely regular. For the other thing, that I wanted to review also with you was that instead of saying un, cent, we say cent, just. And same thing happening for 1000. In this case, we just pronounce it 1000. And apart from that, it's 100% regular. So I think we covered pretty everything about the numbers. So I hope you now master them like a chef. And of course, if you have any additional questions, some interrogations about anything that I've been talking about, or if you have any further questions about the numbers, don't hesitate to leave a comment just down there, and I will be really pleased to answer to you the best that I can. And so that's pretty all for today, for all these numbers we've been talking about. So don't hesitate, of course, to subscribe to this channel if you liked the lesson we just had together. And of course, if you want to have some private lessons with me, that's also possible. You just have to follow this link. So www.edmondfle.com. So on this particular website, you will be able to book lessons with me through Skype. And so that's pretty all for today. So I was really glad to talk to you once again. So merci beaucoup for watching this video, and I hope we will be seeing each other très bientôt. À très bientôt.